Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today for this episode I'm home with my trees and I want to talk about one of the most important topic for bonsai, that is wiring. Wiring is like the brush from the painter, and we use wire to shape our tree. So it's very important to know the best way how to wire a tree so the work can be done properly and we don't give too much stress to the tree and the tree can recover faster after our work.
Bonsai Dream.
Here we are in the workshop with the candidate of today's work. This is a larch, an European larch. This tree was collected in the Dolomites a few years ago. The tree is nice and strong. The past season I just let it grow because I wanted to give a nice step to the tree and secure the structure and already give shape to the ramification. The tree has a lot of character and a good structure, some major branches. You can see the tree has two major branches and other secondary and a lot of fine ramification. So talking about wiring, that for me is one of the most important technique that we have to get to do bonsai. We need to start thinking on a tree like a system. So when we wire a tree, we want to subdivide our system in parts. So starting from the major branches and wiring going through the secondary and the finest vegetation, we want to subdivide our tree in smaller parts. And every time reconnect this part back with the other bigger parts. What I mean is that we have to consider that a piece of wire has always to connect two branches. So, starting from the main structure, I will start wiring a piece of wire between this branch and this other branch, thinking on the direction. So, if this branch is gonna come up here to create the apex of the tree, I have to wire this branch counterclockwise. In the same time, if according to the front I want to push this branch a little bit more to the side, I have to wire this one clockwise. So I can match these two branches together. So I can anchor the wire with my U anchor and wire outside the two branches counterclockwise, this and clockwise this one. So all the tension I'm gonna put on the branches in the moment of bending is gonna be held in my anchor, that we have to remember is always a U. For this tree I'm gonna use copper wire. We know that for bonsai we can either use copper or aluminium wire. The difference between the two is basically about the size. So normally copper wire is stronger than aluminium wire. It's a little bit more complicated to apply to the tree, but we can use smaller size. The wire, when stays on the tree, it becomes stronger and can hold the position of the branches better than aluminium. Aluminium, we need to use bigger gauge, but it's easier to wire on the tree and also to unwire and eventually reuse. My advice, normally when you work on deciduous tree and you want to be more gentle, use aluminium. When you work on conifer, use copper wire. Aesthetically, copper after 1 or 2 weeks become almost invisible on the tree. Aluminium is always very bright and visible. So if we want to prepare a tree for an exhibition, it's better to use also copper wire because it's gonna disappear, especially in smaller gauge. So let's now see in detail how we put the wire on the first two branches. When I wire the main structure of a tree, I want to put a piece of wire that is, yes, a little bit proportional to the branches, but doesn't really apply the normal proportion I use for copper wire, that is 1 to 4. So it would be impossible to wire a piece of wire 4 parts smaller than these branches. But I need a piece of wire that can hold the tension while I'm putting in position these two branches using guide wire. And also I need the wire to redistribute the tension along the fiber of the wood while I'm bending the branches. On structural branches, the most I'm concerned is the direction. As I said, if I want to bend this branch up, I need to wire counterclockwise, and the same for this branch down, I need to wire clockwise. So now let's put the first piece of wire. So let's start from the junction between the two structural branches, creating a good anchor in this position, and pushing the wire. We're gonna create our anchor here and follow the clockwise direction for this branch. It's very important that my step and my angles are all the same to be able to move the tension in the same way along the branch that I'm wiring. Another advice, every time you put a piece of wire, already think and program how you're gonna put the next one. Wiring a tree is like a chess game. Now that the structural wire is set, we have to analyze the tree as already two different systems. One is the frontal branch, one is the back branch. So, starting from the frontal branch, we can either decide, or we wire through gauges. So now we downsize the gauge to the secondary branches, and then we apply those gauges to all over the tree, or we can work on this system and then work on the other system. So for practicity, I'm going to work on this system and then I'm going to move there. So when I analyze this system, I see I have 1 and 2 secondary branches that I can match together with a piece of wire, and then I have 3 smaller one also connected to the main line, and I can match 2 of them, and the third one I can just re-anchor. I have always to use the rule wiring from inside outside, and always remember the rule 1 piece of wire, 2 direction. So having the main wire clockwise, this means I have to create my anchor here, my U anchor. This will be counterclockwise, and the other half we're gonna follow clockwise outside, reaching this other branch. So now the first branch, secondary branches are completely wired, and again I subdivide my system in other smaller one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So as I said, I wired this branch with this one. So again, anchor here on top. This is counterclockwise. The wire come out clockwise and follow this branch. Then I wire this one, smaller gauge, again counterclockwise, on clockwise, and then I just re-anchor the last one. So this gives me the chance to, first of all, use the proper gauge of wire according to the branches that I wired. Second, always try to match two branches together, and here I have one branch that has not a pair, so I just use this branch and anchor here. So I always try to find an anchor outside. I never come from the inside with a single wire to go on a single branch, because in the straight line the tension is more difficult to hold rather than just making my U anchor and then just wiring outside in something that is already wired. Now the next step is taking every single little system by itself, and again, inside outside, wire all the little branches until everything is wired. So now I'm going to show you the wire on one of this system, and then I do all the rest. And in the second step, I'm going to work in the other half of the tree. So when we wire a tree, it's always very, very important to be in a comfortable position. As you see, I'm working with the table that can go up and down, and either my seat. So I can be always in front of my branch. The branch has to be at the height of my chest, so I can work with my arms from underneath and from inside, outside, just doing this movement. I don't need to lift my shoulder so I don't get tired. And when I have to do this work for many hours a day, the position is very, very important. My back is straight and my arm in 90-degree angle work from inside outside. And I can repeat this movement ever and ever without become tired. Now I'm ready to work on this second half of the tree. So as for the first half, the planification of the work is the most important thing. So I have to analyze the branch. So the main wire is counterclockwise. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 branches coming from this system. So I'm gonna wire 2 by 2, and I wanna think always about also the direction. So having the main wire counterclockwise, I'm gonna put a piece of wire clockwise from this branch that has to go in this direction to create a little bit of the back of the tree, and anchor this branch with the main one that I'm using to recreate the top of the tree. And then I'm gonna put a piece of wire between these 2 branches because I have a good anchor still with the main wire in between. Again, my main system is now subdivided in 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, I can just start from this one, wire everything, and then I'm gonna move here, here, until everything will be wired. Again, always with the same rule, inside, outside. So if my main wire is counterclockwise and the branch is right, my U anchor will be on top. So I'm gonna anchor and I'm gonna wire outside. I always try to anchor, but use the shortest anchor, so I don't have to run too much wire in the same branch trying to connect, for example, the first one with the last one, and so when I have my anchor, I wire the 2 branches. So creating this, I don't overwire branches with every time running a line of wire, and always try to connect 2 by 2. So another tip I can give you while I'm wiring with the fine wire, I always hold in my hand a little scissor in this way, so I can keep wiring, and while I finish my line I can cut the wire and I don't have to keep picking up my scissor and wasting a lot of time. So wire my 2 branches. And cut the excess of wiring. I'm working my way up to the apex, so as you see, slowly coming up, I match 2 by 2 all the secondary branches coming from this main one, and now already these apical one are wired, so I can keep following my rule of the system, wiring all the little branches coming from different systems, and I'm pretty confident that this type of wiring that I'm using, a part that helps me a lot to be focused on the different part that I have to wire, but also it helps me a lot on saving wire. So the trick is always thinking inside, outside, either from the main branches and then from the little one. And I don't want to go back with my wire to then reach a certain branch, but I always want to start from the branch I want to wire and wire my way outside. So again, I repeat again, I'm always sure I do my U anchor and I have my 2/2 of the wire in 2 different directions. So now all the tree is wired. You can see how nice and clean all the wiring lines are. I choose especially a larch that is with no leaves and it's very easy to see the wiring on the tree rather than another conifer that has the green and would be more complicated. But you can easily see how I try to use less wire as possible. Only the really necessary wire is on the branches. And now comes the fun. So I will start pushing the main branch down, following the direction of the main wire to create the lower pad, and then anchoring in this part of the other bigger branch. I will create an anchor point probably on this gin to lift all this part up and then be able to create the apex of the tree. Another thing that you can see is that I wanted on purpose to wire all the fine line as long as they are, because I still don't know the length I need to create my pads, so I prefer to wire them and then when I set the pad I can cut them back and I have a lot of buds that I can use to create the pad of the tree, the green. Another little tip, I really like to work on my shaping when I do some work like this, using one of these very cheap scissors from Superfly Bonsai, my friend Andy. It's very useful. I can either cut wire and branches at the same time, and it really makes my work very fast and clean. So let's start with the guide wire, pushing down this branch in the direction so the wire can tie it up on the branch, and let's start creating the first pad of the tree. The line of the first branch is nice and clean. Now I can start creating the lower pad. So normally I lift the inner branches up. I start from the outside of the pad. I have the inner branches that I can use for the volume, and the longer one I can use for the outside line of the pad. So start creating my pad. away on the work, little break. So the lower pad is set. I'm pretty happy about the position of the main branch with the guide wire, so down, that really highlights the movement of this crazy first part of the trunk, the twister, and the crazy gin. So all the dynamism of the tree goes to the left. Now comes the part of the band for the second branch. So I'm gonna put a guide wire in the last part of the branch in this position, anchor up here, and bend everything up. So I will tighten up on the band the main wire that I put on the branch, and in the meantime I can lift this part up to be able to create the top of the tree in this position. Here we are with the finished product. I'm pretty happy about the final shape of this tree, and I hope I was able to give you a lot of good tips to make your wiring better. If you want to have more information about my wiring technique, you can contact me, link on the description with my email, and on the last chapter of my bonsai book, Bonsai Dream, there are a lot of good articles about this important topic for bonsai. Thank you for following me. See you next time.
Bonsai Dream.